What's going on? Today we're going to talk about the biggest mistakes men make at work. My name is Michael Barive, and I was able to build a team of 150 plus sales guys in less than 2.5 years. We did it with zero money invested, and now we have a solar company that's grown. We have a lot of other companies that are growing like crazy, a coaching company. We have a lot of things cooking for us. But I do want to talk about when I was building my teams, the biggest mistake I've seen men make are these three biggest mistakes, okay? And if you're a man and you're watching this video, highly recommend you pay attention. And if you are a woman, then you are probably going to see men making this mistake, and you better help them not make this mistake, okay? So number one, the biggest mistake I've seen, this is what I've taught all my sales guys. Every single time I hire new sales, especially when they were young, we said, guys, be very careful with these three nevers. Number one never is never mess with the opposite sex. Meaning, never mess with the opposite partner that you're trying to mess with, right? So for example, if you're in a workplace, and I see a lot of guys making this mistake, the biggest downfall of empires, the biggest downfall of communities, the biggest downfall of political leaders, biggest downfall of anybody is usually when they chase the opposite sex, meaning especially in the place of work. And I understand we are sales guys. We are filled with testosterone. We are filled with energy, and we want to have fun. But the problem is this. The second you start messing with people in the workplace, it just changes the dynamic, especially if you are the leader. You might say, Michael, why are you teaching me this shit? It doesn't make any difference. This is the most important aspect of sales and building sales teams. This is the most important thing. If you cannot learn to control your emotions and hold yourself back from chasing women or women chasing men, whatever it may be, right? If you cannot control yourself and emotionally put yourself in a position where you do not even have when you have that wall in the workplace, it's going to be very difficult for you to grow anything, in my opinion. I've seen a lot of I've had great mentors that have failed in this regard, right? Mentors, people that I looked up to, and I really looked up to them like, damn, they fucked up, right? Because by the way, it's the worst, especially if you're in a leadership position. Because guess what? I give you an example. Let's say you're looking at a chick, right? And you look at her, you give her that look, she gives you that look, and now you start messing around with her. Do you think she's going to give you respect in the office? Absolutely not. So now you affected her dynamic because now she can't go create an income because she feels awkward. She feels weird after a few weeks or after a few months when things don't, kind of work out. And now you just made her awkward. You made yourself awkward. Now everyone feels it. Everyone knows it. And guess what? She's not making money. You're not making money. And it just destroyed the dynamic. And you just destroy the culture. You have to go rebuild the sales team all because you made a mistake by chasing one girl. By the way, ask me how I know. Very simple. I've seen it happen so many times, right? Which is why when I was building my sales teams, the girls in my office, they already knew like, what's up? I'm focused and there is no messing around. Right? And I was always teaching my leaders and my sales guys to be very careful. And the ones that listened eventually won, and the ones that didn't had to pay a pretty big price for that. Number two mistake, okay? Number two, they mess with other people's money. What do I mean by that? Well, you're a manager. You get the commission statement, right? You see the commission statement. You share it with Joey. Yo, Joey, look how much Bobby's making. You don't know what's going on in his situation. You have no idea. Why are you sharing his financial information unless it's a culture where you're allowed to actually openly share information? Right? If you're doing it in a cultural setting, that's fine. But another aspect, let's say you go on a trip, on a road trip, 100 miles away to go knock on doors somewhere, as an example. And, Joey's in the driver's seat driving. It's his car. It's you and two other sales guys. You're the leader, and you don't chip in for gas. Not because Joey asked, but it's a kind gesture to like, hey, I got you. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, you may not realize, but you may not know, but Joey has his last $15 because he had a bad divorce. Or Joey had his last $25 because of a situation at home because his mom has cancer and he had to pay for all the medical bills. You have no idea. And you just stole from that kid's pocket. You have no idea, right? So you gotta be very careful. Be very careful with other people's money. Be very, very generous and careful with other people's situation. You have no idea what they're going through. I'll give you another example. You're a manager or you're a leader or even you're a sales guy, right? And you make a lot of money and you have a new sales guy coming on board and you're going to get lunch for $35. And now, you may afford that $35 lunch, but what about Joey? What about the new guy? He may not be able to afford that $35. Maybe that $35 was meant for something else that he really needed to make sure he could spend money on. So you got to be very careful of other people's situations. Be emotionally intelligent and understand where everyone is at. For example, when I used to work with my sales guys, I try not to go to expensive spots because I know they may not have the money at that time to go spend $50 on food. So you got to be very careful. Go to a spot that's $10 as an example, right? I'm not saying you can't have a good time. What I am saying is be cautious and be empathetic and be emotionally intelligent to figure out what everyone's situation is at, because that's being intuitive enough and worrying about other people around you. That's number two mistake. Number three mistake is messing with other people's ego. Okay, I see a lot of men making this mistake. They joke around. By the way, all these mistakes, I made these mistakes, right? I'm telling you this from my personal experience, right? And not only have I made these mistakes, I've seen these things happen, right, with other people, where we joke around too much and you're hurting other people's ego. So you may make fun of someone's, I don't know, hairy chest as an example. Maybe that's his his soft spot. Maybe that's a spot that he's really self-conscious about. Maybe, something happened in his family where they had cancer. Now you're talking about hair. You don't know what people are going through. So you gotta be very careful messing people's ego, especially in front of other people, right? So when I was building sales teams, I always try to tell my sales guys, be very careful how you communicate with other people. And by the way, I made this mistake so many times because we have a jokey environment, jokey culture, poke this, poke that. But sometimes you may poke the person at the wrong timing. Boom, they go behind closed doors, they're crying, they're going through a situation because you were not sensitive enough. So be very careful how you talk about other people and learn to raise people up, right? If it's not edifying someone, why are you going to talk about it anyway in the first place? This is what I've learned. Behind closed doors, it matters how people are communicating about each other, because if you're talking shit about other people, to me, I'm like, wait, if I'm not there, you might be talking shit about me. So you got to be very careful, right? Very, very important. So remember, never mess with the opposite sex, never mess with money, and number 3, never mess with someone's ego. And I promise you, if you follow these 3 things, and by staying away from this bullshit, you can build a culture that's dynamic and it can grow. You can build sales teams and people will actually be part of your company, part of your team, and shit will grow the right way. My name is Michael Barayev. If you love this kind of content, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next video.